Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of the Magic Guide. This time around we're looking at the Lore of Light. There are a few spells that are a common sight out of the Lore of Light, and with 3 augment spells, a magic missile, a hex, and a vortex spell, the lore is great for keeping your troops safe and fighting. The lore attribute, Exorcism, gives a map-wide -4 to leadership, but it only affects undead units. In other words, don't bother taking it unless you're up against the undead. It costs only 53 points, so it certainly is worth taking, as it can just edge those undead units over into crumbling in the most desperate of times. Phos Protection is a great augment spell that affects a single allied unit for 24 seconds for a cost of just 5 winds of magic, and a 23-second cooldown. Overcasting costs 10 winds, but adds a 40-meter range, supporting all troops within its range. With a plus 36 to melee defense and a plus 30 to armor, Phos Protection can help weaker units survive dangerous situations, and can especially help out units like Flagellants, who your opponent is likely to attack with non-armor piercing units to begin with. Hold a line longer with the added melee defense and extra armor, allowing your cavalry to push in and respond to threatening situations with rear charges. Though the choice isn't always there, try to avoid using Phos Protection to support units that are being attacked by armor-piercing units. The plus 30 to armor will be comparatively useless in that situation, though don't get me wrong, the plus 36 to melee defense will still make a massive difference as fewer attacks from your enemy make contact. With a cost of just 59 points and the relatively low cost to wins, this is a great spell to take to the field if you expect there to be any melee engagements. Shem's Burning Gaze is the Lore of Light's magic missile with a range of 250 meters, a cost of 6 winds of magic, and a cooldown of 24 seconds, overcasting for 11 winds of magic, increasing armor-piercing damage. With 5 projectiles, Shem's Burning Gaze can punch through infantry easily and causes armor-piercing damage, 83 points with a regular cast, and 166 points when overcast. So, double the damage for just short of double the cost in wins, and with a decent ability to hit a large enemy unit, Shem's Burning Gaze isn't the worst spell to take to the field, but it's not as useful as Phos Protection or the Net of Amnytok, so I'd advise leaving it behind. The cost of 56 points is negligible, but 6 to 11 winds of magic is just enough for another cast of Phos Protection or Net of Amnytok, spells you're more guaranteed to gain some benefits from. Light of Battle is another augment spell that lasts 25 seconds, costs 7 winds to cast, has a cooldown of 43 seconds, and can target an ally to make them unbreakable. If overcast, the duration is doubled to 50 seconds, with a cost of 12 winds of magic. Though unbreakable units can be quite annoying to deal with, Light of Battle doesn't do enough to make it worth taking to the field. Having to choose any one unit is difficult, and spending 7 winds of magic to keep it around for a handful of seconds hardly seems worth it. The only case where the spell shows value for its 123-point cost is if you're likely to get your leadership stuck in a precarious situation and need to bail them out with a boost to morale and don't have the Potion of Foolhardiness. At that point though, you should either carry that Potion of Foolhardiness or be a bit more careful about sending your commander in to fight. I would recommend leaving Light of Battle behind and spending the points elsewhere. Net of Amnytok is a fantastic hex that should always be brought alongside the Lore of Light. It costs only 9 winds of magic to cast, has a cooldown of 45 seconds, and traps enemy units within its 30-meter cast range for 16 seconds, stopping them from moving. Overcasting extends the duration of the cast to 32 seconds. If you haven't already seen this spell in action, or used it yourself, I'd be very surprised. This is a spell you should always take to the field with the Lore of Light. Tactically, it provides a great benefit, allowing you to pin any enemy unit in place, and this has a multitude of uses. Pin down enemy lords to gun them down from a distance, or charge them with a counter. Pin down enemy cavalry to prevent a charge into your unbraced or non-melee units. Pin down enemy units so you can get the jump on them. Pin down enemy units to prevent their escape when low on health. Pin down enemy units to slow a clean advancing line. Pin down enemy units so they just don't do what they want to. Pin down enemy units to show them who's boss. Between 16 and 32 seconds, an entire battle can change, but a 45-second cooldown and a pretty high cost to cast means you have to be ready to use it at the opportune moment. With a cost of 123 points, you absolutely must take Net of Amnytok to the field if you're going in with the Lore of Light. Birona's Timewarp is a decent augment, providing all units within its 40-meter range of 41-second boost to speed and melee attack, with a winds of magic cost of 11 and a cooldown of 52 seconds. Overcast, it costs 17 winds to cast and has a larger area of effect. While the 24% increase in speed and a plus 34 melee attack can be great as you charge into the enemy, especially for use with cavalry chasing down the enemy, the cost of 195 points is too high, and its high cost to cast makes it harder to cast than the significantly more effective Net of Amnytok. It's a decent spell on its own, especially since a plus 34 melee attack is a huge bump, and if you want to use it, make sure you're casting it on units that are already capable of causing damage in the engagement they're in. For example, pick armor-piercing units engaged in a battle against armored units rather than casting it on non-armor-piercing units engaged in a battle against armored units. Make sure you cast it just before engagements begin as well, just to get that extra impact damage from the sped-up charges, and make sure you take full use of the 41 seconds of extra melee attack. Banishment is a vortex spell with a cost to cast of 12, a 53-second cooldown, lasting 18 seconds, with a cost to cast of 20 when overcast for some extra damage. With a regular cast, the spell does 12 points of armor-piercing damage, while overcasting causes 12 points of regular damage in addition. In other words, the best time to overcast this is when targeting unarmored units, as the guaranteed armor-piercing damage is constant between the two levels of cast. Every second, though, the vortex can change its direction by up to 170 degrees, meaning within 2 seconds, it can go from hitting your opponent to literally any direction on the compass. With a cost of 204 points, the unpredictability, and the high cost to cast, this spell is definitely one to leave behind. The Lore of Light is a common lore on the field of battle. When you're up against it, prepare yourself for the inevitable net of Amnytok. The best defense against the net is to keep typically targeted units apart. Don't move your cavalry in clumps, for example. Most effective, and this is easier said than done, is to keep an eye on those typically targeted units and be prepared to micromanage them the moment a spell is targeting them or the area near them. Pull apart, keep separated, and also stop your movement if only half your units get hit. There's no reason to send in Senegor with Great Weapon who are getting help from Poison Warhounds if the Poison Warhounds are netted and the Senegor are still free to go. If the support structures get hit, then be patient and wait for the net to dissipate. This applies to your entire front line as well. If half the army is hit by a net, the other half can stand their ground and wait before pushing onwards into the enemy. And most importantly, this is an error I see all the time, avoid the cast area of the net if it's already gone down. The net will entangle any unit within its area, whether it started there or was just passing through. So, if you see one of your units has already been hit by the net, avoid the area if you're still trying to get some units through. Otherwise, everything gets netted down and waits to get shot up or charged down. The only time it makes sense to do this is if you're sending fodder troops into intercepted charge that would hit your high-value units while netted down otherwise. Apart from that, you should never do it. While you're not likely to see the other spells as often, Fau's Protection will sometimes make an appearance. Buffing your own melee attack to counter it works well, but make sure you're providing the buff to armor-piercing units, as the boost to enemy armor means non-armor-piercing damage is made negligible in most cases. And that covers the Lore of Light, perhaps one of the most tactical of lores, with a spell that is built to hamper enemy freedom of movement. With the one extremely potent spell though, there are a few others that make the cut. Fau's Protection is good, but another net can make a significantly larger difference to the battle at hand. The Lores of Magic are just another set of tools on the battlefield. You need to make sure that you take the right tools for the job and use them well, because that's what being a great general is about. As always, for more Total War content, including updates to this Magic Guide mini-series, make sure you subscribe to this channel. And if you've got any interesting Magic-related thoughts or strategies of your own, let me know in the comments below.